Hey everybody, in today's video, we're going to be looking at the Garmin Instinct 2 Solar Watch, and I'm going to be answering a viewer question. Alexandre asked a question on one of my videos. He wants to know, is there any way to get tide information on the regular Garmin Instinct 2 Solar, the non-tide version? There is a surf version out there that gives you a widget for tide information, and I'll say this, if you're interested in that, I would pay the extra $50 or whatever it is to get the tide version. You can get some tide information on the Garmin Instinct 2 non-surf model, but you'll see in this video it's not very good. Now, first and foremost, I'll say this, I'm not an expert when it comes to tide information, and the apps and watch face I'm going to be showing you here, I'm definitely not an expert on. But currently, in the Garmin Connect IQ store, there are I did a search on tides. There's 3 different applications or watch faces, widgets, whatever you want to call them, that display tide information. This one is a watch face. These two, actually the first 2 are watch faces, and then one of them is an actual glance. And I will show you all of those on the watch. So they're not great, but they at least do bring in some tide information. Here's a regular delivered watch face. Let's go ahead and let's change our watch face. I'm going to press the menu button. I'm going to choose watch face, and then we will go look at one of the 2 that I just downloaded. You'll notice this is one of them. I should say that on both of these, some of them say payment. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see my cell phone. Payment and payment. There are free versions, and then you can pay to get fancier versions. I just went with the free versions. This is one of them, and you can see on this, it's basically showing my tide information. You can go put in your NOAA tide location, and it pulls in the information. Not real sure what we're looking at here. I do know I have my date and my time up here. 1 foot is the tide, and then you can see, I guess, the next event that's going to occur, or the trend is that high tide is coming. You've got a graph down here of 0 feet to 5 feet, and then you've got a graph here that shows, I believe, the times of when high tide and low tide is going to be coming. The negative is I cannot change the date and go to a future date or a future time like you can on some other watches. I've done a video in the past on the Nixon Regulus Expedition and the Nixon Tide watch, and those are both great watches in terms of tide information because you can go as forward into the future as you want to and look at the tide information. I have a feeling that's how the Surf Edition works as well. But on this watch face, all you can see is the next event of high tide or low tide. So that's one of the options. Let's go ahead and let's switch to a different watch face. This next one did not work very well, and this is where I was saying I'm not an expert. Maybe there's some way to change this. What I've got here is I've got my battery percentage, I've got my moon phase, time and date, but I don't have tide information because it says tides must be unlocked, and it gives me an ID there. And I'm not real sure what it is that you're looking to get. I know if you're trying to pull in weather information, you have to go get like an open weather key. I'm assuming you have to do the same kind of thing with tide information. I'm not real sure how to pull in that information to get this watch face to work. So this was kind of a strikeout for me as a second attempt for getting tide information. The last of the 3 options is there is a glance that was available to be downloaded. Daily Tides is what it was called. When I go to that glance, you'll notice it's not very good. I think it says press GPS to start. It's blocked because of the tide here. If I press start though, it pulls in information, and what it's showing me is, I believe, the next occurrence of low tide and high tide. 12:14 a.m. is going to be the next occurrence of low tide. High tide looks like it's at 11 something, and then the ones after that are not available. Again, I have no options as far as changing the dates, going forward or going back, and looking at tide information. So to answer your question, Alexandre, yes, there are some ways to pull in tide information. Are any of them good enough that I wouldn't go and buy the Surf Edition? No, if you want tide information, I'd spend the extra money and go get the Surf Edition. Anyway, I hope the video helps. At least it gives you an idea of what options are currently out there in the Garmin Connect IQ store for the Garmin Instinct Solar 2. Thanks for watching.